Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alan. I just changed the name on my YouTube channel to 359 Classic Peterbilt number 306 Celebration Tour. And the reason why I did that is because the plan is we're going to take this, plan has been ever since a year or two ago, to rebuild this 1987 359 numbered Classic and take it around the country and show it off and just enjoy life. And what started all that out was a cancer diagnosis. On December the 5th, 2022, I was on a load out of Houston to Wilmington, Delaware. And I had my 2020 389 Peterbilt. I had a flatbed load of galvanized steel going up to Wilmington to one of the naval yards up there. And I stopped at the first rest area on 81 when you get into Virginia out of Tennessee. I think it's exit 16 or something like that. It's the first rest area going northbound. And spent the night in the rest area. And I got up the next morning to continue my trip. And I was walking up to the rest area to use the restroom. And the rest area was on a slight grade. And I kept thinking to myself, man, this is harder than what it looks. This thing's steeper than what it looks. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was suffering from a bleeding ulcer and had lost and was losing, and the blood was going into my stomach and into my intestines. And so I stopped at one of the porta potties on the way up there to use the restroom. I didn't go all the way up to the building, which was right in front of the second parking lot, because I was in the parking lot down at the end. I got in there late that night, so that was one of the only spots that was open. And I remember going into the porta potty thinking, man, I don't feel too good. Something's wrong. And then when I was in the porta potty, I was like, I'm in trouble. I got to get out of this porta potty, because if I collapse in this porta potty, nobody's going to find me for a long time. So I got up and opened up the door to the porta potty and did not make it out of the porta potty. I fell out on the sidewalk with blood coming out of my mouth and out of my backside, and was laying there on the sidewalk bleeding. And it just so happened there was a row of trucks in front of me, and there was a Landstar driver sitting in his truck, and he seen what happened, and he got out of his truck and came over to assist me. And he just told me, just relax. We're going to call 911. They're coming. So I just laid there on the ground, and he called 911. The Virginia State Police came to the rest area along with an ambulance and got me. At that time, when I ran across country, I ran cross country with my dog Junior, and Junior was in the truck, and the truck was running, parked at the end of the parking lot, loaded, and man, they treated me so nice up there in Virginia. The ambulance took me to Abington, Virginia Hospital, and the state troopers and the truck driver from Landstar went down to the truck, got Junior out of the truck, shut my truck off, locked it all up, and the ambulance drivers were very nice. They let Junior ride to the hospital with me in the ambulance. So me and Junior took the ambulance ride to Abington, Virginia. Uh, and we got to the emergency room in Abington, Virginia, and man, the nurses were going crazy because it's not every day that somebody brings a dog into the emergency room. And Junior is such a sweet animal. I mean, they were just, losing it over Junior. They loved Junior. And he got to stay in the emergency room with me. They let him lay right beside my bed in the emergency room. The nurses were fighting over who was going to take him out to go potty, and get a chance to get him some water and some food. And I just had a great experience in the emergency room. I mean, they took care of me and loved on me, all of them, all the nurses. And they loved on Junior. And that's when I found, and when they took me down to do the scan to find out what was wrong with me, that's how I found out I had a bleeding stomach ulcer. They did the scan, they said, you got a bleeding stomach ulcer. And that I was like 3.5 pints low on blood. You only have 8 pints in your body. So I was about half empty. I had lost that much blood. And that's why I fell out. So they gave me infusion and everything. The next day they took me to surgery to fix the what do you call it, the thing in my stomach. But it turned out it was right by my esophagus, where the stomach and the esophagus connect. So they scanned it again because the doctor said it's going to be very hard to get to. So they scanned my chest again with a CT scanner. This time it wasn't just an X-ray scanner or whatever the first one was. They did it, with a little more high-powered scanner, and that's when they found out that I had a nodule in my chest on my left side. And they said that, man, we're going to fix this ulcer, but as soon as you get back to Texas, you need to contact your local doctors and have them check this out because this could be cancer. This could be lung cancer. I said, okay. It wasn't no big problem. And they sent in their doctors. They sent in and talked to me about cancer and all that stuff while I was in the hospital. I ended up spending 8 days in the hospital up there because when I got up to the room, I still was low on blood. I had to get another transfusion of blood up there, and had to rest, so that their fixes would take hold. So I spent 8 days at the hospital there at Abington, and of course, my truck was in the rest area there on I-81. So my business partner at the time, Russell, me and Russell were running Kitchler Trucking, which that's my last name is Kitchler. We were running under my authority together, and he was my partner in the business. He dropped what he was doing that day when I called him, grabbed a plane flight up to Bristol, Tennessee, took a cab up to Abington Hospital, got the keys to my truck, went back to the rest area, and found that the state troopers had been watching my truck the whole time. They had a state trooper parked in front of it and a state trooper parked in back of it. So when he got there, the Virginia state troopers were, they weren't letting anybody steal all my stuff. Because Interstate 81 is a busy highway. A lot of people going through there. So, anything could have happened. It had me really worried at the time. But after Russell got there, he got the truck, took the load up to Wilmington, Delaware, and unloaded up there, and came back to Abington with the empty trailer You know, I told him, I said, dude, you can get a load going back to Houston if you want to. But he didn't like he was too uncomfortable driving my 2020 Peterbilt because it was so nice. I mean, it was 320-inch wheelbase with an airbrush paint job on it, chrome everywhere. You know, I mean, he was so afraid that he was going to damage that truck. He said, man, I better just take this truck back to Houston. I don't want to take a chance on scratching anything on this truck because it was a show truck. I mean, it was, I had it in several truck shows. Had it at NRG Center here in Houston, had it at Pulling in the Pines up in Lufkin, had it in another truck show here in Houston over at, what do you call it, over there off Eastmount, Houston. And he was so afraid he was going to damage that truck. You know, it was bigger than anything he'd ever driven before. I mean, his truck was a T660 Kenworth, you know, with a setback front axle, and you could, you know, turn that. It was like driving a zero-turn lawnmower. You could turn that thing around a tree. Where my truck, you literally needed 40 acres to turn it around. You know, you had to be really careful where you went, how you turned, especially making right-hand turns. You had to take up almost the whole. If it was a 2-lane road, you had to take up both lanes. If it was a 3-lane road, you had to take up both right lanes for sure, and even actually be in the 3rd lane to make a right-hand turn. You know, because it just didn't. And then you'd have to back up like once or twice to get it around the corner without dragging the trailer, you know, too far off into the grass and over the curbs and stuff. So he agreed to take my truck back to Houston. I stayed in the hospital while he did that. He's such a good man. He paid for his plane flight, his cab ride. Took the truck back to Houston. Wouldn't accept a dime from me. I offered to pay him for his time and his effort. I paid for the plane flight. He wouldn't let me pay for any of that stuff. I mean, he just treated me really well. And matter of fact, because he had to go back to Houston legally, you know, 11-hour drives with 10-hour breaks, go across the scales and all that stuff. Because it was about 5 days. I was in the hospital about 5 days when he got back from Wilmington. Because he'd already flew up there and took the truck up to Wilmington and came back from Wilmington back down to, you know, Abingdon. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. But so by the time he got back to Houston and parked the truck in the yard, that was the morning that I got out of the hospital. And I took a cab ride down to the airport there in Bristol, Tennessee, and got on a plane back to Houston. Had a buddy of mine pick me up at the airport and take me to the yard. And he had only been at the yard for like 2.5 hours, 3 hours by the time I got there off the airplane. So I almost got back exactly the same time as he did. You know, but I'll be eternally grateful to him for doing that for me. I don't know if anybody's ever had a medical incident on the road before. It's a very scary thing, though. Very scary thing to be, you know, driving cross country and have a medical emergency. You know. So anyway, the moral of that story is that's when I found out I had cancer. December the 5th, 2022. So I got back to Houston and I started, went to my doctors, told them what happened. They had to go in and do another surgery on my stomach because it needed to be repaired again better than what it was. And the doctors here in Houston are, you know, you got some of the best medical facilities in the world here in Houston, Texas. So Texas Medical Center is absolutely the best. So I had another surgery on my stomach. did all the scans, had a biopsy on my lung. The biopsy came back inconclusive, you know, because it was a needle biopsy. They didn't actually cut my chest open and go in and cut it out. But they set me up for surgery, you know, at the end of May to go in and do the surgical biopsy. So they, at the end of May, they did a surgical biopsy on me. And he said, before I went under on the anesthesia, he said, we're going to go in there and cut this thing out of your lung. He said, we're going to send it to the lab as soon as we get it out. If it comes back conclusive that it's cancer, he said, we're going to go ahead and take that lobe of your lung out right there at the same time so we don't have to go inside of you twice. So when I woke up, that's exactly what they did. They took out half of my left lung, and it did come back as cancer, lung cancer. So that's when I started this cancer journey. You know, they told me, man, you're a lucky dude. Now, you were one lucky man. I was 58 years old at the time. I was big and strong, healthy. They said, man, we took this out of your lung. We're going to hit you with a little radiation. You're going to do a little bit of chemo. Man, you're going to go on and live a long, happy, healthy life. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm down with that. Well, what ended up happening is, when they took half of my left lung out, they took out the lymph nodes that are right next to your lung. You got 8 lymph nodes that run down each side of your lungs. Well, it was stage 3 in the lymph nodes, which means that once that stuff gets in your lymph nodes, it could start bouncing around all over the place. Because your lymph nodes, that's what sends it through your body. So I went through the radiation, went through the chemo treatments, and was just about to get off the chemo treatment. Well, I say I was about to get off. Signs were looking good. I was out, it was in August of the next year, 2023. I was out working on my truck. I was underneath my truck, my pickup truck, changing something out. I don't remember what it was. But it was a hot summer day here in Houston. It was going to be 105 degrees that day. So I was out there in the morning because I said, I can't be out here in the heat, because the heat was killing me down here. Heat and the humidity. But I had a seizure underneath my pickup while I was underneath the pickup. And working on the pickup. And I was in a bad spot. I was down there on my back under the pickup having a seizure. My phone was in the house, you know, and I knew I was in trouble. I mean, I knew immediately I was in trouble. And so I laid there long enough to where it calmed down, where I could move and get out from underneath the truck. And I said, okay, well, I'm cool. I'm out from underneath the truck. I'm walking. I'm good. Went back in the house. Act like everything was fine. You know, this is just a hiccup. The next day, I was in trouble again, and ended up having to ride the ambulance to the hospital. I got to the hospital. They told me, you know, the cancer had moved to my brain, and that I had a seizure because it was on my brain. So they didn't take it out because it wasn't big enough. It was just messing me up a little bit, you know, my equilibrium and walking and all that stuff. So they said, we're going to give you some more radiation on your brain. We'll give you some more chemo and see if we can't knock this thing out before we cut into your head. He said, because brain surgeries are so, they could go either way. They could either help you or really mess you up. You know, and I said, well, I don't like the idea of being really messed up, you know, so let's go ahead and do the radiation and the chemo again. So I did another round of radiation and chemo. And then I was getting better. By December, I was getting better. finished the radiation, chemos. They were reducing the amount of chemo. I was bald back then. My hair was all knocked out and everything back then. They were reducing the chemo down, and my hair was growing back. And in January, I had a blood clot develop in my right leg, and because of the chemo, that's what they said. Because the chemo was causing me to have blood clots. And they said that, we're going to put you on these blood thinners, you're going to be fine, everything's going to be great. After they did another scan on me, they realized that it had moved to my liver. So now I got liver cancer. And I'm like, gee, many Christmases, what is going on here? So went through, they said we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do radiation on your liver. We're going to do some more chemo for your liver. But you're going to be fine. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that. And so I went through the chemo, went through the radiation for the liver, and was just about to get done with all that stuff back in August. Now we're in 2025, so we're 2 years into this now. 2025 in August, which is only like a month and a half ago. So now they do another scan on me, and this stuff has moved to my back. Now I got it between my right lung and my spinal cord, And the doctor says, we're going to do the same thing, we're going to do some radiation and some chemo on you. He said, I got some special stuff I'm going to give you that come up from MD Anderson. He said, you can only take it once in your lifetime, but we're going to give it to you. He said, we're going to knock this stuff out. And so I said, well, what are my options? I don't really have any other options but to keep going, Today I'm 75 pounds lighter than I was in 2022. So now this week I'm going to go do 5. I already did I did that experimental immunotherapy, chemotherapy last Monday. This week I'm going to do 5 rounds of radiation on my back and still keep on the chemo every 4 weeks. I just got to do it every 4 weeks. That's why it doesn't knock my hair out, because it gives me time to recover between the chemo treatments. So that's the reason why we're, I don't know if there's very many people out there that ever had to face your mortality. I mean, I know everybody knows they're going to die, but they just don't hope. What's that old country western song? Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to go tomorrow. But when that doctor rolled his chair over and, after it moved to my liver, that doctor rolled his chair over in front of my chair in the office, and he grabbed me by the knees and he said, man, son, if I were you, I would start getting my affairs in order. And that's a strange conversation to have with somebody. Because I was looking at him like, what did he just say? He said, yeah, I would get my affairs in order, because this stuff is bouncing around all over your body. Because it had already been in 3, this is the 3rd place it went to. Now it's in the 4th place. So now I got a fourth different place. So that's why I changed that's what the celebration is going to be about. Because if I survive this 4th round of cancer, next year I'm going to take my 359, my 1987 359. It's in the paint shop right now being painted. I'm going to have a new paint job put on it. I mean, the old paint job looked fine from a distance, but you can see on the videos on my website. It was blue and silver. It was a beautiful truck. But we're going to change it to black and silver now. And it's going to put an old style 80s stripe job on it. Because a lot of trucks no numbered classics came from the factory with stripes on it. But I always liked those. And it's my truck, so I figured I might as well do what I like to do. I mean, because I've already pissed most of the hardcore, original equipment guys off, because I stretched this truck to 320 inches. I took the 15 over out of it, and found an RTO 0613 Road Ranger from back in the 80s. So now it's got a 13 double over transmission in it. It's 320 inches long, and it's got a 13 double over transmission in it, which there were no numbered classics that came out with a 13 double over. You know, mine's the only one in the country that's got a 13 double over in it. Which I don't know why, but when I was a kid back in the 80s, I always wanted a truck with a 13 double over. You know, because back in the 80s, the big boy on the block was the 5 and 4 and 6 and 4. You know, the 6 and 4, you get both sticks up against the dash, and you were moving on down the highway. Well, Eaton couldn't stand for that, so they came up. Their answer to the 6 and 4 was the 13 double over, because when you get, you know, up against the dash with the 13 double over, and you swap to that last hole, you're at points. What they say is 0.73 overdrive, which means you are really overdriven on that transmission. So it would outrun a 6 and 4 back in those days, because 6 and 4, both sticks up against the dash, was only like 0.64 overdrive. But the 13 double over is like 0.73 or 0.76. I can't remember what the exact number is right now, but it became the big boy on the block. And there was very few trucks that had a 13 double over in them. You know, I guess that's the reason why I wanted it. I wanted to have something that nobody else had. And I definitely got it now. I bet you could count all the trucks, even in the show trucks, or all the trucks on the road with a 13 double over in them, probably on both hands, and still have a finger or two left. There's just not that many of them out there anymore. So the plan is we've rebuilt the 359. We repainted it. Everything on the 359 is new underneath: the drive lines, transmission, U-joints, air lines, electrical. It's got an air ride front axle underneath of it now. It sits low and proud, which I always wanted one of them too. You know, and that really doesn't sit well with the hardcore, you know, keep it all original guys either, really. That's all right. It's my truck. If you know, the guy told me a long time ago, it's your truck, do whatever. I said, well, it's a numbered classic. Am I going to really kill the value of it by making these modifications to it? He said, you know, no matter what you do to it, it's a numbered classic. When you get done with it, somebody's going to want it. And that's all that matters. Somebody is going to buy it from you. And I said, well, so he said, so do what you want. It's not like a 55 Chevrolet 2-door hardtop. You know, it's a Class 8 truck. So, I mean, even in all in original condition, today, it's probably only worth $150,000. You know, but mine's going to be like a super badass 359. You know, so I'm going to make these series of 30-minute videos and go through my story. I'm going to let you guys know why I'm going out there to celebrate. Number one thing is I'm going to celebrate being alive, still being alive, especially if we can get over to this back cancer. It's right between my right lung and my spinal cord. You know, so we're hoping that it doesn't get into my spinal cord, because the doctor said that could be really bad for you. So we're getting all prayed up on that. Also, that Charlie Kirk shooting a month or so ago, I don't know why, I never met that kid. I call him a kid because I'm 61 and he was 31. So I'm definitely old enough to be his dad. So that's why I call him a kid. I never met him, never knew him. I've watched some of his videos online. And when he got shot, and everybody watched him get shot on YouTube and X, it affected me, you know, for some reason it affected me in a peculiar way. All of a sudden I felt myself getting very patriotic, And so we're going to celebrate his life on this tour next year to the truck shows. Next year also happens to be the 250th birthday of America, so we're going to be celebrating that. My business partner Russell is an Afghanistan veteran. My youngest sister and her husband both just retired from the Air Force with 25 and 32 years respectively. One is an E9, one is an E8. So we're going to celebrate military people and their service. And even though not all of my experiences with law enforcement have been positive, I'd be amiss if I told you every time I had interactions with law enforcement it was positive. Because when I was a younger man, things were a lot different, and some of them weren't so positive. But we're going to celebrate. But these ICE guys are taking so much shit for just doing their job. I think somebody needs to start celebrating law enforcement. You know, not only ICE, but the guys in blue. You know, they're doing a hell of a hard job, a thankless job. You know, that's got to be done by somebody. But everybody acts like they're the enemies, and you know, it's like I said, not all my interactions have been great with them, but they are definitely necessary. I couldn't imagine America without a law enforcement, somebody to enforce these laws that we have. It'd be a terrible place to live. It'd be chaos. It'd be just like a third world country. So we're going to celebrate law enforcement, and we're going to do all that this next summer, and that's why I changed the YouTube channel. We're going to document it. We're going to make videos on every stop. We're going to make videos on finishing the truck up, because when the 359 comes back from the paint shop, I still have to put the interior back in it. You know, so we're going to video putting the interior back into it. We're going to video the trips. We're going to, you know, talk to everybody along the way, military veterans, law enforcement, cancer survivors, and also we're going to celebrate recovery. I'm also 31 years sober myself. I stopped drinking when I was 29. That might have had some reason why I was having such bad interactions with law enforcement, the way I was drinking back in my 20s. And there's nothing worse than somebody that's 6'1", that's drank too much with a smart mouth. That'll get you an ass whooping every time. So I know that now at this stage of my life. Back then I thought I was being picked on. But now I know it at this stage of life, that all my troubles back then were of my own making. I didn't know it back then, but I know it now. So we're going to celebrate the 359, because there ain't many of them left out there. We're going to celebrate the military, law enforcement, cancer recovery, alcoholism recovery, and America's 250th birthday, and Charlie Kirk's legacy. So I think that's a hell of a lot of things to celebrate, because not too many people are celebrating about life in America today. We're going to put on our patriotic flags, and we're going to act like we give a shit about this country. You know? At least before I have to meet the maker. You know? So that's what this whole thing's about. So this is my first 30-minute video. I hope you stayed till the end. If you didn't, that's fine. I mean, not everybody's going to want to listen to this stuff. Not everybody's going to want to listen to my story. But I'm going to start telling my story on there. You know, because I got a lot to celebrate. I'm still here. I've been through some stuff in my life. You know, and I need to share it with all these young men that think that they're in deep shit and can't get out of it. I'm living proof that you can go through deep shit and still have a good life. You know, you can come up on the wrong side of the tracks and still eke out a good life for yourself. And that's what we're going to be doing. So I appreciate you guys listening to me and watching this video, and I hope you have a great day.